They say time heals all wounds, but some wounds, they leave scars so deep, you feel them ache with every shift in the weather, every bittersweet memory that flickers in the quiet corners of your mind. Mine started on a Tuesday, a day as ordinary as any other, yet it carved a chasm into the landscape of my life that I never thought I'd be able to cross. That's how it began, the unraveling. Sarah, my Sarah, the woman whose laughter was the melody of my mornings, whose hand fit perfectly in mine, the one I'd envisioned building a lifetime with. Looked me in the eye, a gaze suddenly distant, and uttered words that shattered my world. I'm leaving Anna, for good. The air in our small apartment, usually filled with the comforting aroma of her cooking or the gentle hum of our shared drinks, felt thick, suffocating. The chip mugs on the counter, the worn-out couch where we'd spent countless evenings tangled in each other's arms, suddenly seemed like relics of a bygone era, mocking the stark reality of her words. Leaving? What? What are you talking about? The question tumbled out of my mouth, a pathetic whisper of disbelief. Her eyes, once pools of warmth and affection, now held a cold, steely resolve. He can give me a life you can't, Anne. A life I deserve. He? The word hung in the air, heavy with a sickening premonition. David, she said, the name rolling off her tongue with an almost reverent tone. He has everything. A beautiful house, a successful business, a future. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. And what about our future, Sarah? The one we planned, the one we promised each other. Her gaze flickered, a brief shadow of what I hoped was guilt crossing her face, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. That was before, before I realized that what else was out there. Before she realized someone richer, someone more successful, someone who could offer her the material comforts I couldn't. The realization hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. All those late nights I'd spent studying, working tirelessly at my modest engineering job, scrimping and saving every penny so we could build a life together. It all felt like a cruel joke now. My love, my efforts, my very being deemed insufficient. She didn't linger on the details, didn't offer any comforting lies to soften the blow. She simply stated her decision, a voice devoid of the warmth I'd cherished. In a matter of hours, she packed her belongings, the rustling of her clothes in the suitcase sounding like the tearing of my own heart. Then with a final cold glance, she walked out the door, leaving me standing amidst the ruins of our shared life, the silence amplifying the deafening roar of my despair. The following weeks were a blur of pain and confusion. Sleep offered no respite, only a relentless replay of her words, her cold eyes. Food was tasteless, the world around me muted and grey. I felt like a part of me had been ripped away, leaving a gaping void that echoed with her absence. Our friends tried to console me, offering words of encouragement, but their voices seemed distant, their sympathy unable to penetrate the thick wall of my grief. I was nothing. That's what her departure screamed at me. I had nothing to offer, nothing to hold on to. My dreams felt like foolish fantasies, my ambitions like distant stars I could never reach. The weight of my inadequacy pressed down on me, threatening to crush my spirit. But somewhere in the depths of that despair, a tiny spark of defiance flickered. Was I really going to let this define me? Was I going to let her judgment become my reality? A slow burning anger began to simmer beneath the surface of my sadness. An anger directed not just at her, but at myself for allowing myself to feel so helpless. I started small. I threw myself into my work, using the long hours as a distraction, a way to channel my restless energy. I devoured books on business, on investing, on anything that could give me an edge. The shame of being deemed not enough fueled a relentless drive within me. I took on extra projects, volunteered for challenging assignments, and spent my weekends learning new skills. The initial progress was slow, almost imperceptible. There were days filled with frustration, with a gnawing feeling that I was running in place. But I held on to that spark of defiance, that refusal to be defined by my past. I started to see small victories, a promotion, a successful project, a few wise investments that yielded modest returns. These small wins were like drops of water in a parched desert, slowly nourishing my self-belief. Years passed. The pain of Sarah's departure gone, replaced by a quiet determination. I moved out of our old apartment, a place that held too many ghosts, and into a smaller, more modern space that felt like a symbol of my progress. I continued to work tirelessly, my initial motivation of proving Sarah wrong, evolving into a genuine passion for my work and a desire to build something meaningful. I took risks, some that paid off handsomely, others that taught me valuable lessons. I surrounded myself with people who believed in me, who saw my potential even when I doubted it myself. Slowly but surely, the two empty hands I once possessed began to grasp opportunities to build a foundation of success. My engineering background, coupled with my newfound business acumen, allowed me to venture into innovative projects and eventually to start my own company. The early days of my business were grueling. Long hours, sleepless nights, and the constant pressure of making ends meet. But I had tasted the bitterness of failure, and the hunger for success burned fiercely within me. I poured every ounce of my being into my venture, and slowly, painstakingly, it began to thrive. My company grew, my reputation solidified, and the life I'd once only dreamed of started to become my reality. I had a beautiful home, not as opulent as David's perhaps, but filled with the warmth of my own achievements. I drove a car I'd earned, not one that was handed to me. And I had a sense of self-worth that no one could ever take away. Then, one rainy afternoon, a familiar name flashed on my phone screen. Sarah. A wave of unexpected emotions washed over me. A flicker of the old hurt, a pang of curiosity, but mostly a profound sense of detachment. I answered the call, my voice calm and steady. Her voice on the other end was a stark contrast, thin, laced with a vulnerability I had never heard before. It's me, Sarah. Yes, I know. There was a long pause, filled only with the sound of her shallow breathing. I was wondering if we could talk. We met at a quiet cafe, a world away from the cramped apartment where our lives had once intertwined. She looked different. The vibrant confidence I remembered had faded, replaced by a weariness that etched lines around her eyes. She didn't waste any time. The story poured out of her, a tale of disillusionment and regret. David, the man she had left me for, had turned out to be everything I wasn't. Wealthy, yes, but also arrogant, unfaithful and ultimately cruel. The life she deserved had been a gilded cage. And when his interest waned, she found herself alone, and with nothing to show for her choices. He left me, Anna, she confessed, a voice barely above a whisper, tears welling in her eyes. He found someone younger, someone richer. The irony hung heavy in the air between us. She spoke of her loneliness, her financial struggles, the crushing weight of her mistakes. She looked at me, at my success, at the quiet confidence I now exuded, with a mixture of awe and what I perceived as envy. You did so well, Anna, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I never thought. I listened patiently, offering no judgment, no words of vindication. Part of me felt a pang of sympathy for the woman she had become, a victim of her own choices. But the man who would have rushed to her rescue, the man who would have offered her a shoulder to cry on without a second thought, was gone. His heart had been broken, and in its place had grown a quiet strength, a self-reliance that didn't need our validation. Sarah, I said gently when she finally fell silent, I'm sorry things didn't work out for you, but I've moved on. I've built a life for myself, a good life. And it was true. The bitterness was gone, replaced by a sense of closure. Her choices, while devastating at the time, had inadvertently set me on a path I might never have discovered otherwise. They had forced me to confront my own limitations, to dig deep within myself, and to build a future I could be truly proud of. Life, in its unpredictable way, had also brought someone new into my life. Her name was Lynn, and she was everything Sarah wasn't: kind, compassionate, and fiercely independent. She saw me for who I was, not for what I had. Her love was a quiet strength, a comforting presence that filled the void Sarah had left, not with fleeting excitement, but with a deep and abiding peace. Lynn knew my story. I'd been honest with her from the beginning, and instead of being deterred by my past, she embraced it as part of the journey that had made me the man I was today. Her love was a balm to my old wounds, a testament to the fact that even after the deepest heartbreak, love could bloom again, stronger and more resilient than before. Seeing Sarah again was a stark reminder of where I'd come from. But it also solidified how far I had traveled. I was no longer the man who had been left behind, broken and defeated. I was a man who had risen from the ashes, who had built his own empire, and who had found a love that truly cherished him. As Sarah left the cafe that rainy afternoon, a solitary figure walking back into the shadows of her past,